Today on CityCast Madison. Madison is hungry to better the lives of Black and brown residents in our city. Look no further than last week's massive protests over the anti-Black UW student video. We saw similar crowds back in 2020 over the murder of George Floyd. That summer, activists tore down 2 statues on our state capitol grounds to send a message. Well, soon a new statue will grace the Capitol grounds, one honoring civil rights champion Vel Phillips. We spoke with her son, Michael Phillips, to learn more. It's Tuesday, May 9th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Hi, Mike.
Hi.
So, Vel Phillips is your mom. No big deal. So, Velvelia Hortense Rogers Phillips broke several glass ceilings in Wisconsin and the U.S. What would you say in her career she was most proud of?
Of her achievements, I think, believe it or not, one of the earliest, was gaining the common council seat. That was a huge one. It was really big for her. She'd never run for anything, and they hadn't had a Black person as a Milwaukee Common Council member in Milwaukee. She was the first one. But strangely enough, she used to say that it was tougher running as a woman than it was as an African American. They had to hide. On their campaign literature and they masked the fact that she was a woman. So there was never a picture of her anywhere.
Wow.
Yeah. And over the course of her political career, she would say that it was more difficult being a woman than it was being an African American. But my mom was she wasn't dark skinned.
Right. She was light skinned. But I mean, thinking about intersectionality, Black women are kind of at the pinnacle of challenges. It's no surprise she had hurdles to face here. And she broke glass ceilings for being the first African American woman for many things, as you mentioned, elected to the Milwaukee Common Council, first African-American judge in the state of Wisconsin. It's just tremendous. And she was a friend of Thurgood Marshall, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., John Kennedy. I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
No, she was a woman of her time. There's no question about it. And, sometimes the times make the person, and she was perfectly suited for that moment in history.
So there's going to be a new statue put on the grounds of the Wisconsin State Capitol to commemorate Vel Phillips, the first new statue in nearly 100 years.
Well, it all really began in the summer of 2020 with the Madison protests that swamped the Capitol there that late summer. It really, began with the protests surrounding George Floyd and that tragedy in the Twin Cities. And anyway, a guy named Michael Johnson, he's the president and CEO of the Dane County Boys and Girls Club. He's done tons of really good work in Dane County and is just a beacon, really. He stood up and grabbed a microphone and began to try to calm people down a little bit. Folks had pulled down the 2 statues that were standing there, the Forward statue and the Christian Hague statue, and dragged them around and whatnot. Just doing some damage. And after he got them calmed down a little bit, what he understood was that part of the reason that they pulled these statues down was that they were upset that there was no representation on the Wisconsin State Capitol of anyone of color. There was no diversity represented in the Wisconsin State Capitol. And Mike didn't know, but he checked it out, and it turned out true. And they asked him to do something about it. So Mike, being a guy who knows the governor well, met with him, and the governor said, "Well, Mike, I will impanel a task force. Who do you think we should install up there?" He talked to folks, and they came up with my mom, and we got this thing rolling.
Yes. How do you feel with your mom being memorialized like this?
Well, I feel really good, but it's not up to me. I mean, how I feel is irrelevant. I think my mother is a really good she's a really good individual to bring to the Capitol because she She represented all people. She was a people first person. She wanted equal and equitable rights for everyone, black, white, brown, it didn't matter, blue. She was fighting for tolerance across the board in every aspect of the human endeavor. So, and she did so in a way that is, how can I say it is very humanistic. She was a listener. She was a person who was able to connect with people and loved people. So I think she's the perfect representative there.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and I've certainly felt proud vicariously just being here and from Wisconsin and knowing her work. I've always been proud of her and what she did for us. How did you go about finding an artist?
When we first were looking to gain our legislative approval, we had to go up in front of the state capitol and executive residence board, and they wanted it's called an RFP, a request for proposal. I mean, we got a lot of proposals, but none of them really hit well. We decided at that point that we were going to fund it ourselves. So with private funding, we wouldn't have to, and we're not asking the state for a dime. Then we can simply build it ourselves, avoid the RFP process, and we can go out and simply try to attract the best artists in the state and in the country. And I liken it to, the film process. So the best actors and actresses in Hollywood, they don't go to open casting calls. They just sit back and their agents accept scripts and they read scripts and decide what they want to do. So the best public artists out there, they're people who, they wouldn't submit an RFP. They got super busy. So we went out and...
It sounds like you wanted artistic control.
I wanted an artist whose work that I knew and appreciated.
So this artist, Radcliffe Bailey, I saw the work that he created of it's a statue of W.E.B. Du Bois in Milwaukee, and it's in the likeness of, Rodin's The Thinker.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I know. It's what attracted me to him, because my mom was a big Rodin. We had a small, representative, the Thinker in our house, and it just reminded me of her, and I loved everything about it. And it turns out that Radcliffe is exactly the sort of person that we needed for the project, because he's very into African American art and family, and it was really at least so far, it has been a match made in heaven.
What will the Vel Phillips statue look like?
Radcliffe created two maquettes, they're called, two sort of models. And one was a standing and one was a seated sculpture. And at first, I kind of went with the standing because you think about statues and, you think about man on horse, that kind of thing. It's the first thing that came to mind. But the more that I began to speak to my friends and family and people who knew her well, it was a seated sculpture, a seated piece. That's the one that I think best represents what she brought to the interaction with people. So we've gone with the seated piece. It's going to be bronze, black granite as a base.
I was thinking about that, Lincoln, at the Lincoln Memorial, there is something powerful there. It's like, it is, and it's also maybe a more open, like you said, that she was an extraordinary listener, that, is open, like someone coming to you seated. It's kind of a nice place to be when you want to talk to someone about something that's important.
Yes. Her hand isn't balled up in a fist. She's not carrying a sword or a rifle. Nothing. It's very interactive. I really like it, and she's attentive but calm, and that's exactly who she was.
That's beautiful. This is such, an exciting moment. How has the fundraising campaign gone so far?
Fundraising has gone really, really well. We have essentially a $2.5 million goal, because we decided to create, on top of the statue effort, a Vel Phillips Legacy Fund that would be an educational endowment and community activity endowment. So the sculpture itself is, I think the price tag at it is about 600,000, and we have raised about 320. And we raised quickly. I know the first 200 within a couple of months, right, just right there in Dane County. And then COVID hit. COVID was a tough time for our development effort. We've moved our fundraising campaign to Milwaukee, and we're doing really good work here.
And when will we expect to see the statue?
Right. The statue is expected on probably the fall of next year. And there's a number of things that are going on, really, that we're trying to coordinate. There's a Vel Phillips Plaza here in Milwaukee. There's a street, 4th Street is named after my mom. And so on her street and Wisconsin Avenue, that's the main avenue, sort of the hub avenue, the arterial of downtown in Milwaukee. There's a block there, and it's going to be Vel Phillips Plaza. There's a book that we've been working on for the last 3 years that will probably get published next year. Next year is the centennial of her birth. She was born in 1924, so hopefully we'll have the sculpture at the Capitol, the Vel Phillips Plaza, and her book all coming out.
I love it. And also here in Madison, we have one of our major high schools was James Madison Memorial, and now it's Vel Phillips Memorial High School.
It is.
She is getting her flowers.
She is. Yep, she is laughing up top. Her and my dad are dancing the jig. They're loving it.
My heart. Would your mom be surprised that her likeness is going to be displayed like this at the Capitol and for generations?
Yeah, she might be surprised, but she wouldn't let on. She'd be happy as a clam. Yeah.
Since we have you, what's something most people wouldn't know about your mom?
She was a diehard Packer fan. Big Packer fan. Yeah.
Really?
In 2012, we were working for the re-election president, and brought my mom and a number of folks. We gathered together, and we were able to contact the president through some connections we had, and we had a photo op with him. And Obama was he turned into a Chicago guy. I mean, he will own the Bears. And my mom, she made sure she wore her Packer hat, and it was just fun. Yeah. She's a big Green Bay fan, a big Bucs fan too, and she loved to talk sports, and she loved to laugh. And I wasn't as good at making her laugh as my brother or my dad, but I could get her rolling every now and then, and yeah, that's what she loved to do.
That's pretty good. She trolled Obama. We love that.
Yeah, she did.
She's a big Packers fan. Well, we're so looking forward to the statue coming, and are really honored and appreciative of you sharing, about the project and talking a little bit about your mom. It means a lot.
Thank you for having me.
That's Michael Phillips, Vel Phillips' son. He runs the Vel Phillips Foundation. For more on the statue and the fundraising campaign, check out our show notes. And here's what else Madison's talking about. East Washington Avenue. And no, not just all the construction. There's another luxury housing development planned, this time for the old QTI and post office building at the corner of East Wash and Blount. They're planning a 14-story apartment complex, complete with a rooftop pool. And while I'm out here telling myself stories about how I will definitely have friends with a rooftop pool by summer, I should mention the return of Madison's Story Slam. This month, the slam will return to the Wilmar neighborhood, and they're looking for storytellers. This month's theme is bold. So if you have an audacious or embarrassing story and want to tell it with some verve, you can sign up on their Facebook page. We'll toss that link in our show notes. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell someone who gets super petty about the Packers to subscribe to the pod? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, ciao.